setting up that he had witnessed in a family island. The hymns continue until after midnight, when comes a pause with refreshments of coffee and bread. After this come the anthems or folk songs that have not been learned from a book. The Negro sings now. Body, soul, voice, smile, eyes, all his being sings, as if he were created only for music. Some man or woman carries the refrain and all join in, from the wise patriarch with his crown of yellow-gray wool to the veriest pickaninny. But how can one describe this music vibrating in the dead of night to the pulse beats of human hearts? As well, try to describe the song of the thrush or the voice of the palm. In presenting the White Paper on Independence for the Bahamas to the House of Assembly on October 18, 1972, Prime Minister Lyndon Pinling declared, and I quote, "Independence is necessary and desirable now for reasons which affect both national development and international relations. Above all, independence will enable the Bahamian people to find their true identity and to establish that freedom towards which all men aspire and to which all are entitled." More than 2 decades after the accession of the Bahamas to political independence, the question of what constitutes the Bahamian cultural identity is still a subject of vibrant public debate. Clearly, the Bahamas is not unique among the nations of the world as regards its persistent interest in the subject. As cultural identity, as Stuart Hall states, is an issue of political importance in that it constitutes a quest that is now one of the most serious global problems that we face at the beginning of the 21st century. The reemergence of questions of ethnicity, of nationalism, the obduracy, the dangers, and the pleasures of the rediscovery of identity in the modern world places the question of cultural identity at the very center of the contemporary political agenda. To borrow from Pat Raming a few lines of poetry, "For strangers see my land, isles of palm trees in the sand, a place to buy, a place for fun, a place that pleases everyone. But this is my home, and I claim the name Bahamian." As implied by the poem, the Bahamas, like all nations, is endowed with a cultural and social identity that transcends facile reductionism, the usual lot of the other. It is not just a destination or an investment possibility, it is a home inhabited by people with a history, a living present, and with aspirations for its children's future. In the words of its national airline, Bahamas Air, we don't just fly there, we live there. Paul posits that in the context of the Caribbean and the Americas, the insistence on being recognized as having a cultural identity is motivated partly by, and I quote, "the dislocations of conquest and colonization and slavery, partly because of the colonial relationship itself and the distortions of living in a world culturally dependent on and dominated by some center outside the place the majority of the people lived. In attempting to redeem this status, however, one must be careful to bear in mind that cultural identity is not an already accomplished fact, but rather a production which is never complete, always in process, and always constituted within and not outside representation. As with other former colonies in the Caribbean region, the Bahamas, with the advent of political independence, embarked upon a mission of affirmative cultural rediscovery. Besides strengthening the claim to a national identity and promoting group solidarity, such a move was intended to position the Bahamas as a bona fide member of the world community made up of nations whose claim to legitimacy is rooted in cultural difference that distinguishes its people and promotes a positive image in the eyes of the rest of the world. The excavation and reappropriation of hidden histories and cultural practices have been very effective in instilling in subordinated peoples a renewed sense of self and purpose, and have served to advance the struggle for political and mental liberation. Nations seek validation through identification with and promotion of past and present accomplishments, basing projections for their future prosperity and progress on their historical and cultural record. Examples abound that illustrate the significance of the arts and struggles of liberation throughout human history. The creative imagination of enslaved Africans in the United States produces spirituals, narratives of liberation. Music provides a valid context for the discussion of cultural identity as well. Adorno reminds us that, quote, since the mid-19th century, our country's music has become a political ideology by stressing national characteristics, appearing as representative of the nation, and everywhere affirming the national principle. Yet music, more than any other artistic medium, expresses the national principle's antinomies as well. Glissant, this underscores the central role of music in the liberation of enslaved Africans in the Americas. It is nothing new, he said, to declare that for us music, gesture, dance are forms of communication just as important as the gift of speech. This is how we managed to emerge from the plantation. Rex Nelford agrees that music and dance provide the Caribbean with two of the most effective weapons in the battle for space. Sound and movement are the life-giving abstractions beyond the reach of external domination. He goes on to assert the existence of an organic relationship between cultural identity and artistic creation, and applauds the centrality of the artist qua artist to modern Caribbean development in particular, and generally to the shaping of new societies in their quest for new designs for social living. The Caribbean popular artist, whether calypsonian or reggae performer, engages in a form of social commentary that addresses problems of self-definition and gives critical clues about a people's perceptions of themselves. When we consider then race as a marker, one of our markers of identity, in approaching the Bahamian song, we recognize that it is fairly absent. And when we talk about race, we're not talking about race as necessarily as a polemic, but rather as symbolic, to be able to be put at the service of art. But while the Liberation Project in the Bahamas was really based on a validation of blackness as a motivating principle, there is little evidence that Africa as a geographical and historical space attracted the attention of Bahamian musical artists. Africa was a significant source of inspiration in the realm of the visual arts and the dance. It didn't hurt also that in the last election leading up to majority rule, the Penling led PLP used the theme of Exodus as its musical signature. This land is mine, God gave this land to me. This mythic identification with the Bahama Islands as original home was also reinforced in the secular domain with enchanting songs like Bahama Lullaby and historically accurate though beautiful Caribbean lyrics such as This is my island in the sun, where my people have toiled since time begun. Whereas the influence of Africa is very evident in the rhythm of the music, there is little direct lyrical reference to the continent or to the concept of an African diaspora. Virtually the only direct allusions to Africa can be found in the song Umwali, composed and performed by Patrick Raming, and which is included in the official Independence Music album. Raming's rendition of the liberation narrative is embodied in the male figure of the title, whose historical antecedents are to be found in Africa, the place where they say you were king. In this narrative, the female presence is erased as the artist draws exclusively on the iconic repertoire of masculine resistance and sketches the eventual psychic and political rehabilitation that are its reward. In the case of Tony McKay, also known as the Obeah Man, identification with Africa, he is a disruptor in this whole presentation of identification. He identifies with Africa, thus validating the customs associated with African ontology, such as the practice of Obeah. Obeah has a significant presence on the Bahamian cultural landscape, as the majority of Bahamians, if not active believers, have an open mind towards it. The Obeah Man subverts the prevailing religious ethos that is grounded in a Europeanized Christianity that demonizes all African systems of metaphysical belief. The account of the birth of Exuma, the Obeah Man, proclaimed in the song, stands in dark counterpoint to the birth of Christ, as recorded in some of the Gospels. Exuma says, I came down on a lightning bolt 9 months in my mama's belly. When I was born, the midwife screamed and shout, I have fire and brimstone coming out of my mouth. I'm Exuma. I'm the Obeah Man. And not only the Africa of ontology, but also the Africa of material history, in that in songs such as Pay Me, oh, pay me what you owe me. Pay me, oh, pay me what you owe me. Pay me, oh, pay me what you owe me. Pay me for my brothers and my sisters, pay me. Pay me for the spirits in the sea, pay me. I come to collect, I come to collect, I come to collect everything that you owe me. I come to collect, come to collect, come to collect everything that you owe me. And this is way back in the early 1970s that Exuma was promulgating the cause of reparations. But Exuma goes beyond that, and we have exemplified Africa in a song that commemorates the tragedy of Attica that some of you will remember took place in the 70s when the prisoners at Attica prison in New York State rioted. And well, Exuma will tell us a bit more about what happened.
Exuma.
Thank you very much. I'd like to do for you something that we consider to be an American tragedy. It's called Attica. All they wanted to do was to bathe their skin, but the man, he did them in. All they wanted to do was to bathe their skin, but the man, he did.
Yeah. That's what I thought when I saw it the first time. It was so intense. But this is how Exuma was linked. Let's see what it was now. Yeah, Timothy McCartney, some of you might have heard of him, was a Bahamian psychologist who many years ago wrote that since '67, there has definitely been more self-awareness among black Bahamians. Artists, writers, to a small extent, musicians and actors are all doing their Bahamian thing. It would appear to me that the majority of Bahamians are leaning towards Bahamian nationalism than black power per se. The Bahamian, especially the intellectual, has never wanted to go back to Africa. He has always believed that he has been better off socially than his black American counterpart. There are many Bahamians who still look upon the philosophy of black power, its jargon, its attitudes, as negative stateside imports. That was back in a long time ago. I don't think it appertains to the same extent today. Another aspect of identity which we see marked in the Bahamian song is that of gender. It's the usual male-female discourse, with the male voice really having the most volume, in that most of the performers, most of the writers are male. And of course, there are historical reasons for this. We know that there was a point in time when women performers were seen as, in a negative way, those who worked in nightclubs and so on. And so we had a few women who, anyway, decided that that is what they would do. But a lot of the pejorative gender discourse is directed towards the black female body. Eddie Minnis, for example, in talking about how things have changed in the Bahamas. Before time, picky head was picky head. Now they call it Afro. Before time, gals dressed with modesty. Now they call it run come see. Young men used to be the finest dressed in any land, with clean shoes and clean clothes and their hair pat down. Now they look like Rasta with their plait up here. The young gals ain't much different. They getting bald head just like mine. Nassau become such a funky town since Ting and Ting been going round. Ronnie Butler, Bahamian composer, entertainer, man of the arts par excellence in his early days. When the native woman started to hear them calling these bad names now, you're dingy good for nothing but your picky head. You gotta sleep on the floor, you ain't got no bed. And Elon Moxie tells the woman, if I don't see your black ugly face no more, I swear to God, it'll be too soon. Pam, pa-dam, pam, pam, pa-dam, pam. And then from the voice of women, Erica Lightman, in the remake of You Asked Me to Give Up the Hand of the Guy I Love. You tell me I'm not the one he is worthy of. Well, where you think you going? If this picky-haired gal thinks she can come down here and take my man, she got another thing coming. This woman got some nerve, parrot toe, and bird sweet water tennis. Oh man, cuckoo soup. I can't cook. This bongi do the thing. I tell you, this is where it's at. This man staying with me, etc. And in reaction to this, spice. Some we are sexy, some we are nice. Going for nice price. If you don't like horsey here, human here will do. Some people like horsey here. What about you? So this business of hair is very, very important as a marker of female, of feminine identity in Bahamian vernacular discourse and at so many levels of society. And of course, it's not really just restricted to males. The whole business of hair is used also as an exclusionary device in certain establishments. If you have locks in here, for example, there are certain places you can't work. All right, your children can't attend certain schools if their hair is dressed a certain way. And we say, yeah, this is in a black country. And the irony of it is that of the private high schools that allow children to come with dreadlocks, 3 of them, all right, are what we call white schools. That is where the students are predominantly white, and the administrators and the owners and so on are white people. Okay, but those are the ones that allow it. But some of our good church schools will not allow it at all. All right. Now, some of you all know the ring play Blue Hill Water Drive. Yes, right? I know Malika and Jay know it. But I ain't call you to sing. But all those who know it, just sing along with me, please. Blue Hill Water Drive. Blue Hill Water Drive, nowhere to wash my clothes. I remember one Saturday night, we had fried fish and Johnny cake. Man, take one and satisfy. Woman, take 2 and she make a move. Man, take one and satisfy. Woman, take 2 and she make a move. My name?
Sounds like you never played jumping dance when you were small. Let her have her fun. After all, today's her school's holiday. You don't have to be each other for everything.
Merlin.
Well, buy down. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, buy down. Big Friday morning, and this all you know what I'm to do? Every one of y'all go where you belong, make noise in your own mind.
Beverly.
I don't know.
Beverly now.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
Continue. Yeah.
No, it's you.
Sounds
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay, sounds like you never played jumping dance when you were small. Let her have her fun. After all, today's her school's holiday. You don't have to beat her for everything.
looks like you won't tell me how to raise my child. Lord, give me Jennifer when I did last hope of having any children. He must have known what he was doing since he put her in my care. I do my best to bring her up right. Right now, she's more a woman than I was at her age.
And this ring play is always seen as a site of, I guess, womanishness, in a way. Kelsey Turner Road, in her play Woman Take Two, uses the ring play song as a liberatory conceit. Okay, given the taboo associated with certain erotic performance, especially in public spaces. But these are ring play songs, if you know them, and this has been well documented by Ian Strawn in his film Show Me Your Motion. Very, very important piece of work. We see that these songs are really the product of the experience and voice of women. For most of them have their themes elaborated around the field or the home, okay? And they're used figuratively for erotic purposes. I went to the market, oh yeah, to get some banana, oh yeah, to put in my bread, oh yeah, to make it sweet, oh yeah, how you gonna roll 'em so, how you gonna roll 'em so, all right? Alison Hines comes back later on, years later, and talks about roll 'em gal, control 'em gal. Okay, so you have these same diasporic reaches when it comes to certain forms of feminism, what I call a vernacular feminism, where the women on the ground in the daily toil use their voice to express their reality. Next, please.
With our speed, just
Disturbing school video being probed. Ministry of Education officials have launched an investigation after a video of girls dancing in a vulgar fashion at H.O. Nash Junior High School went viral yesterday. Minister of Education's Jeffrey Lloyd visited the school yesterday and spoke to the principal. Quote, "It's an insult to the environment of decency, respect, and modesty that you would expect a school environment to uphold and promote, especially involving young women and of a tender early adolescent age," Lloyd told The Guardian yesterday. "This violates every sensibility of common decency, of dignity and honor, which should be the prevailing culture of our Bahamian society, especially among our young men and young women. But it also subtly reflects the decadence and the rot in our value system which has been festering over these past decades and which more and more people now find to be a normal expression of modern life. So sad, so very, very sad." And if this is acceptable to our people, to parents, if they can endorse this, many of whom want to be like their children, many of whom want to be friends with their children, is there any surprise we have this kind of behavior coming from 13 and 14-year-old girls in public? And what disciplinary action will be taken, Lloyd said. "I need to see in writing exactly what happened, who would be the persons who perpetuated or caused this, and when I get that, then we will take action." Okay? So it's this policing of certain forms of public behavior or among children that, while I guess one may argue the appropriateness or not of a thing, one questions the response that you get in situations like this, because obviously these people want to dance, and the question is how many dance programs do we have available to them to teach them what dance is and where it is and what is and what shouldn't be. All right, so younger artists now are experimenting with a range of musical styles, as their conception of the world and their place in it is far more extensive than that of artists of earlier generations, who limit themselves to the production of what have become traditional Bahamian rhythmic and lyrical structures. While many of these artists express themselves musically in African American styles such as R&B and rap, or via reggae beats, the themes which they elaborate generally reflect their concerns with contemporary issues facing the country, while casting them in such a way as to make them more universally appealing. With the coming of the internet and people being able to put their music out there, we're seeing an explosion of voices that are being heard.
And I ain't trying to be out, so let me take a bit. People moving bad, and y'all don't break it, coming with. You gotta get the same. I said this looking for the streets. Doing it for the streets, you know what's happening. We the voice in the streets, you know what I'm saying? I said we speaking for the streets, yeah, we gotta eat, yeah, we gotta sleep. On the floor, it's the jobs, when they gotta reach. When we sweating for where they at, yeah, they gotta see them get a second chances. Yeah, they gotta be speaking for the streets, yeah, we gotta eat, yeah, we gotta sleep. On the floor, it's the jobs, when they gotta reach. When we sweating for where they at, yeah, they gotta see them get a second chances. Yeah, they gotta be mellow, it's a little bit of sorrow.
You have it? Me too. Thank you. This brings my talk to a close, but before I leave, if you would just indulge me as I read a poem, Embryos, written by Wilfred Carty, which I think sums up something of our mission, if you haven't heard it for this conference before. And what is of the world is of ours to draw on, to build from, and no one has the patrimony of the power of the world. We are not artifacts of mastodons and never must be. We must root ourselves within the singing blue mist of our mountains. Indigenizing all our waters, we must flow within the amber crystals of our dreams. We must sing, beholden to the singing of our lands and rivers. Beholden to our flowing dreams, beholden not to mastodons. In finding our way to cross the river, we must find that ultimate geology within the mist of blue, within the hills of Mona, and find our dreams within ourselves together. And to the sea will flow 8 rivers, pure and free, and our children somersault into their dreams. Thank you very much.